Hi, Glenys.
Hey, Aaron. What do you want to talk about today?
How much I hate diets.
Yeah, diets suck.
So what do you do instead of a diet?
Intuitive eating. Health at every size.
So how many times have you had to explain intuitive eating and health at every size to someone?
Like 5,000 times. But that was just to my doctor.
Okay, so how many times have you explained it to someone and then they said, but diets are the only thing I know?
That's like every time. Can we pursue health without thinking about weight?
Yes, we can pursue health without thinking about weight.
That's pretty revolutionary, what you just said. But what if you just don't like yourself at the size that you're at?
I think we need to understand why, instead of just saying I need to change.
So, what's the deal with body positivity?
Oh man, that's a long answer. I'm Aaron Flores.
And I'm Glenys Oyston. And we are Dietitians Unplugged. And welcome back to another episode of Dietitians Unplugged. Aaron, how's it going?
Glenys, it's going awesome. I'm so happy to be back for this episode.
I heard you just came back from ASDA. I just heard in the grapevine.
Just through an unnamed source.
Right.
Yes.
How was it?
Just came back from ASDA. I was there. It was in Portland, Oregon, and it was amazing. There was some body trust work that we did. There was a symposium with a bunch of body trust providers the day before. I got to host a Seder on body trust, which was so much fun to put together with Rachel Milner, who's another body trust provider out in Philadelphia. We created this awesome Seder. The ASDA was amazing. There were so many amazing people there. Got to meet a lot of new friends and connect, and a lot of great presentations. And I'm very excited to be home and to continue this work.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't go this year and I had total FOMO. I was like, I'm going to stay off Facebook because everybody's posting all this great stuff. And I was just like massively jealous.
You were definitely missed. And everywhere I went, it was like, oh, I listen to your podcast. It's so good. Where's Glenys? And so people asked about you all the time.
Tell them we're not like salt and pepper shakers. We don't come together at all times.
No, but next time I will. I'm just going to say we're not salt and pepper and see if people get the reference.
Oh, but I wish I was. Spinderella's not a fella.
That's true. And salt and pepper is so good.
So I thought you were gonna take a paper cutout of me, a cardboard cutout of me, and like put it around.
I did. The problem was I couldn't buy the extra seat on the plane,
they wouldn't let me.
Or else I would have. And then I felt really awkward putting a flat Glenys in checked baggage.
No.
It just didn't feel right. So I didn't do it.
Thank you for that. Flat Glenys thanks you as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So while you were gone, I went out to our last podcast guest's Fat Kid Dance Party. Bevan from Fat Kid Dance Party. I went to her class in Elysian Park, and it was awesome. And I did a Facebook Live from there. So if anybody wants to see that, I went on our Dietitians Unplugged page and did a little Facebook Live there, and that class was awesome. So
I had FOMO in Portland seeing that you posted that. So well done.
Awesome. That was my goal, just to make other people, feel like they're missing out. But anyway, that was really good. I felt like, I need to do something while all these people are having, a good time in Portland. So I need to do some work here. So, So what have you got going on?
Well, my practice is still going, and then always accepting new clients. I do want to make one announcement. I do have a group starting September 4th. It's a men's only body trust group. And as far as I don't know any other men's only groups that are focused specifically on body trust. So this is a one of a kind offering. It's going to be 6 weeks. The groups will meet on Tuesday via Zoom. I will record the calls. So if you don't make one, you can always get the recording. And it's going to be 6 weeks of talking about how body trust can be a part of our healing with our relationships towards food and body. And I'm really excited to offer this. I already have a couple people signed up. So if you are interested, I would just shoot me an email, aaronfloresrdn@gmail.com, or you can go to my website, www.bvmrd.com, and there's a tab that says groups, and there's information on there on how to sign up.
That's amazing. And you said it's virtual group, so
It's virtual, right? So
you can be anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world,
the world,
and come and join this.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's so needed, right? Like this episode, we're going to talk about people who, aren't represented in representations of eating disorders, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But, it's sort of like, people who don't look like they have an eating disorder, according to the traditional sort of trope of what it looks like to have an eating disorder. Men also have body image issues. This is the world we live in, right? That gives it to everybody now. So
no, so it's really just about creating community and a safe space to start to have some conversations with each other, to lead to that healing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear how it turns out. So everybody,
I will keep you posted.
Pass this along, and get the word out for this group for men.
Yeah.
And
so what's new with you?
Yeah. So it's been a hot summer here in LA, and obviously still like you, still seeing clients in my private practice, and we've got our Hayes Care for Diabetes group starting up in September. The groups that I do with Rebecca Scritchfield, author of the Body Kindness book, and we have 2 tracks. So the first one starts September 11th, and the other one starts September 13th. And I'm trying to remember what day September 11th is. It's a Monday or a Tuesday. So, and they're going to be 4 classes. Yeah, September 11th is a Tuesday, and then September 13th is a Thursday, and we have them at 2 different times. One's in the morning, the other one's in the afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. So you can go to bodykindnessbook.com/Hayes Care for Diabetes, but I will put the link in the show notes so you can check it out there. 4 sessions, virtual, and we had a great time doing the last ones, and the people that shared everything that they were sort of struggling with, it just was so amazing. And it's a Hayes oriented way to care for yourself with diabetes, without like restriction, without, the shame that surrounds it for some people. So so check that out, and hopefully we'll see you in our group.
Cool. Awesome.
Yes.
So
awesome.
Let's talk about today's episode. We had been approached about just a crowdfunding page by Elizabeth Ayiku, and she's a filmmaker who is making a feature film about eating disorders from a narrative of a woman of color. And so we're really excited to hear about it. And so we wanted to invite her on and share a little bit about what it's like making this movie. She's just in the beginning process. It's an independent film, and just wanted to sort of hear about how she came to this work, and what are the next steps, and how can we get involved in supporting her in getting this film made. So I'm going to read her bio, if that's okay. Elizabeth is a filmmaker and editor, and she currently lives in Los Angeles, California. She has worked on numerous narrative films, documentaries, and commercials. Some of the clients Elizabeth has worked with include iHeartRadio, Viacom, Smashbox Cosmetics, and BuzzFeed. And Elizabeth's goal is to make character-driven films that will start conversations.
Yeah, I love the way she described this film, which is, she says it's like sort of not about eating disorders so much as it's about a slice of life of somebody who has an eating disorder and what that looks like. And I love that she covers this topic of, there are people who don't get identified as having an eating disorder because they don't fit the traditional look of somebody with an eating disorder. And that's something that's so needed.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a very interesting conversation. I think you're all going to really enjoy it. And again, I'm like I say in the interview with Elizabeth, I'm going to encourage all those folks out there who identify as working in this paradigm within Hayes community to reach out to Elizabeth and support her film. This is a way that we get people whose voices are not centered in our community out there. And so I'm going to encourage and maybe even pester some folks to get involved here, because I think it's a real worthwhile project.
And we're going to post all the links to how you can support her and how you can reach out to Elizabeth in the show notes as well.
Absolutely. So without further ado, here's our interview with Elizabeth Ayiku. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on our podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
So we each became aware of you through a project, a crowdfunding project that we saw online, and you're working on making a feature film about eating disorders. Can you tell us a little bit about like how you got to do this work? I mean, I don't know many feature films that are about this subject. They're very needed. So tell us, like, give us a little bit of your story and how you came to do this.
Yeah, I mean, basically because of what you just said, there aren't a lot of feature films about the subject, and I feel like, yeah, I was waiting myself to see one just because, I know we've gotten more progressive. It's 2018. There's so much, there's more talk about, the subject in general, especially on social media and like the digital world. So I was like, okay, great. This is going to translate, to film, and we're really going to be able to see some real, some realness on screen about what's actually going on. And yeah, I think it never really happened. I say 2018, but I think starting maybe in 2015 is when I started getting excited about just kind of keeping my eye out for more films like this. And when I didn't see them, or at least ones that resonated with me, I was just like, okay, I think I'm going to have to be the one, to come forward and, I guess like put all my business out on the street and just say, this is what I have been dealing with, and this is who I am, and this is what this looks like. So,
and for anybody who hasn't seen the crowdfunding page, can you tell us a little bit just like what the film is about? Like, and I know you can't probably tell us everything about the film, but just to give us sort of a little, idea of what it's about.
Yeah, no, so I'm a filmmaker, and I feel like I need to say it's an indie film first. It's not a film about, it's not a, how do I say, it's not a treatment movie. It's not about what it looks like inside the walls of treatment, because that wasn't my experience. I went to an intensive outpatient treatment program, which is basically, for people who don't know, basically you still have to work and live. And then, for 4.5 hours, I think it was, of the day, I had to go to treatment and, have a snack and process and have a meal and just do a whole bunch of work. So it was like leaving work and then going to do a whole bunch more work. So that's kind of, that's what I wanted to put on screen, because the few eating disorder movies I've seen, it's always about what it's like in treatment, and they're a couple hours and it's like, oh, okay, they're in treatment and they leave, and then they kind of explore, what their life is like after treatment. And it's a little bit that just never resonated with me, because that wasn't my experience. I couldn't just stop working. And a lot of people I know can't. So, what I decided to make was just, I don't know, almost just like a slice of life film about a Black woman. She's trying to get a promotion at work, and which sounds like something simple, but because she's also trying to stay recovered from her eating disorder and attending this intensive outpatient treatment program, it becomes this just monumental task. And you kind of see that. And that's what I wanted to do. I guess I feel like I wanted to just show instead of tell at this point. Like, okay, I've told people, I was in treatment for what for an eating disorder, and a lot of the reactions I got were, oh, okay. Like they didn't know what treatment was. A lot of people thought it was something like, I don't know if I can say it, like Weight Watchers, or, like like they were like, oh, okay, well, good luck with that. I mean, yeah, that's great. It's, like, good for you.
Yeah.
Or, oh, no worries about that. Like, that's just a little problem. Like, they really didn't know what it was. So, yeah, instead of all the emotional labor of just really trying to explain, no, it's not just a little fun thing where you check in to something and hang out and get weighed. I don't know. I was like, okay, I'm going to show this is what life looks like when you're trying to live and recover, because it's just,
Well, it's such an important narrative that you're bringing to our consciousness. I think, especially because again, the only few movies that I've seen are also, you're right. They're very centered on like residential treatment or something like that, but they're also centered around thin white women. And so this, story that you're talking about is really important because it's centering it around a person of color in the eating disorder community, which is not a narrative that we often hear about or even consider that that people of color might get eating disorders.
Right.
So I think it's like needed just to sort of talk about what treatment might actually be like, but even on top of that is, again, bringing this notion of marginalized voices in our eating disorder community, bringing them out into the center for people to see. So, I mean, when I saw this, that's what struck out to me as so profound, is that we need more of this type of narrative to be out in people's consciousness.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just have a question. Like, when you told people that you had an eating disorder, like, did they even? Sometimes I hear people even say, like, I think people don't even know what an eating disorder is. And I'm wondering if that came up for you as well. Like, did you have to do education on what an eating disorder is?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I mean, at the time, because I was so sick and just trying to work, like I said, like actually work for a living and go to IOP and just like stay sane. I didn't really take the time to try to educate people because it's so much emotional labor.
Yeah.
Like, if someone didn't understand, I was just like, all right, like it was too much. I didn't know how to begin. And yeah, I got a lot of just like, oh, okay. Yeah, a lot of people have food problems like that. Oh, that's something that sticks in my craw. When people say, oh, food problems.
Food problems.
Oh, I don't, sorry. Like, that's just because it's so minimizing and just like, no, that's not what that's not what it is. People don't know, like, when you have an eating disorder, you don't just have an eating disorder. You've got anxiety, you've got self-hate, you've got depression. It's just the eating disorder is just like a byproduct, I guess, of like all the other things that are wrong with you. And, yeah, there's no way to explain that to people in a way that they understand, because one, I think because of the movie, unfortunately, I hate to be one of those people that's like, oh, it's those movies. But yeah, the narratives are just about, they focus on the behaviors and what happens to the body. And so it becomes this in our minds. And, people, even me, before I really, got sick, I tried to tell myself, oh, I'm just doing this to diet. I'm not sick. And, until it became something I really couldn't control. Yeah, I think it's because the movies we see, they don't really delve into the emotions behind the behaviors. And so it becomes this kind of superficial thing that people just think is a first world problem almost. And I had a family member say that to me, actually, like, and that's a whole other thing about being Black and making a movie about eating disorders, because it's like we have so many other obvious problems that so I got a lot of, I'm still getting some mixed reactions. It's like, okay, we're getting shot on the street and there's genocide, but you're making a thing about food, like that's a first world problem. So I mean, and I expected a little bit of that, but not as much as a resistance as I'm getting. So I'm like, okay, well, it's just kind of fueling me a little more to show, like, again, to show, not tell. It's like, okay, this is what it is. It's not just about being pretty for the boys or whatever else, people might think it's about.
Right. Yeah. And people really don't understand that it is one of the most deadly mental health conditions that people can, like, literally people die from this. It's
Oh,
not a diet.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's not a diet gone wrong. I mean, it maybe starts that way.
Starts that way.
But
yeah.
it's not like you're just really dieting and it's not good for you. It's like, this could kill you. Like, your heart could stop. And people don't understand that. And it's like, how do you have that conversation without them just like rolling their eyes or being like,
you can't,
are you being dramatic?
Yeah, no, and you said it. And if I continued the way I was going, I absolutely would have died. It's just, and that's what made me go get help, because it started off as something where, because, I don't even call it diet culture anymore. I just call it culture, because, just the way, just because, like the world we live in, when you're using behaviors like that and you don't look sick, because I didn't look sick enough to die I just got compliments, and I was like, I'm being, I'm just dieting. I'm just doing this. But when I started using the behaviors, for anxiety and just for everything, like when I say everything, it's like if I had any emotion, I'd be like, okay, like time to binge and purge, time to, I couldn't stop. It was like a behavioral addiction. Like that's the only way I've been able to explain it to people.
Yeah.
That they've understood. I'm like, it's like a behavioral addiction. I couldn't stop. I wanted to because I'd leave work in the middle of the day. I would just lock up the office and I was the only one there. Put like a handwritten note on the door, like, be right back. And I'd just like be going to use behaviors, and just, I didn't care if I got in trouble or there were people, who wanted to cut. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was absolutely out of control.
Absolutely.
It starts to ruin your life. It's like, I need to do this, whether it's good, whether it ruins my life or not, this needs to happen.
Oh yeah, I wasn't paying bills. Yo, are you kidding me? I used all my money on binge food. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's what I knew.
Well, and the other thing that you just mentioned too, that we need to, I would like to focus on as well is, how many people are not getting treatment or not being even considered to have eating disorders based on their weight, and how shameful that is for our profession, that that really people, like, we equate sickness to weight, and that's just really unfortunate, because like your personal story is a great example, right? That it could have been addressed even earlier if people can challenge that bias.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping that just goes away one day, but again, because of our culture, it's just
no. Listen, I'm here's what I'm going to say. My honest opinion, Elizabeth, is the way we change is you doing what you're doing. I mean, I really believe that, and I think by more people telling their story of their experiences, where we did wrong, where we can do better, how we need to do better, is how things change. We don't need another movie about a thin blonde-haired woman with an eating disorder.
Right.
We need movies, poems, spoken word, art of your story, and that's, and I think that's how things change, is when people begin to see the vastness of eating disorders, our biases around weight, our biases around really like our biases around gender and race. And I think when those things, by talking about these things, is how we do better.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because there are some days where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, am I making a huge mistake doing this? But I know in my heart of heart I'm not, but just the amount of resistance, and just, especially in the industry, I'm an editor, so I work in, the industry a little bit, and there's so much that that also Hollywood is resistant to, put on screen, because that won't be, that it makes people uncomfortable, and especially, and then it being a Black woman on top of that, that's a whole other conversation, because like Hollywood knows what they're doing, by the way, by putting all white people in the things. Like, it's they want to appeal to the masses, and middle America, or white America.
And it's such a weird, misguided thing, like, where it's like, I just hear Hollywood execs. This is what I imagine, all sitting around a table and be like, we can't make a movie about women. Nobody goes to those. We can't make a movie with Black people as the main characters. Nobody will go to that. It's like, like literally every year, some movie comes out and proves all of that wrong, and yet the resistance sticks. It's like they just want this formula. They think like, if we just make movies about white people,
TV too.
and like
Sorry to interrupt
and
you.
like really,
Yeah,
what's that?
they don't want to take a chance.
Yeah. Oh, TV. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. If we just make movies about really thin white people are going to be excited. And literally, like, you know, the TV show Dietland comes on, and there's like a fat main character, and she's like, you know, going to be a rebel basically. And people are like, fuck yeah, this is amazing. It's like people are thirsty for, you know, different representations, and you don't, you know, I don't think that you have to only be Black to appreciate Black people on film. Everybody's going to relate to some story, and so, like, if it's a good story, we'll watch it. So Hollywood, you just need to make good movies. It put a lot of different people in it. Just make it good, and we'll come and see it. Like,
I wish it were that simple. And I've been in rooms, and as the editor, I've been like, I've overheard those conversations, and it blows my mind how they don't want to take a chance.
Was it Matt Damon? Sorry. He did that once. He said something on Project Greenlight or whatever, and everybody was like, "Are you fucking kidding?" No. But anyway, sorry.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. Oh, Damon, he's gotta work on that. Yeah, I've heard like production companies, like just like really pretty big ones, like TV production companies, and they're like, well, we need just the things I've said, like, oh, well, can we get a different Asian person? You can't see this one's eyes. And I'm just like, what the fuck? You know, like it's ridiculous, the stuff they say. Like, so they want an ethnic person, but not one that looks too ethnic, you know, like they want, it's just so, I knew also if I tried to go the traditional route with the film, not to just like bring it back to my film, but like,
no, please.
No, we should. Yeah.
No, I mean, I knew if I tried to go the traditional route, like getting investors and using my, you know, industry contacts, I'd have to compromise so much. It wouldn't be a Black woman for sure. It would be maybe a mixed race woman. Or an ethnically ambiguous woman who kind of look white, you know? So, that's just a whole other thing that intersects with what I'm trying to do. And I knew I had to make it just 100% independent. And I think that's another reason why these movies don't get made. You know, people with all the money don't want to take a chance. They just don't want to. The majority do not want to take a chance that people will reject something new. Yeah. And it's unfortunate.
It's ridiculous because they take chances on all sorts of shitty movies and put them out. And we're like,
oh my God.
Are you kidding? Like, did we need another, I don't know, Deadpool or something like that? I was like, did the first one?
Sharknado.
What?
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen those, but yeah, there's like 5 Sharknados. There's like, it's like we don't.
I'm on board with Sharknado, but Deadpool was worth it.
Talk about this for hours. But.
Yeah, I do love me some Sharknado, but there's a lot of movies where I'm like Jack Reacher too. Did the first one even do well? Are you kidding me? Like,
I didn't even know there was a 2. See, it's so funny. Yeah, they'll just,
and I'm just so thirsty as a moviegoer, and I love going to movies. I'm just so thirsty for originality, right?
Me too. Oh my God,
just give me something different. Yeah,
I think we know Glenys's next podcast.
What is it?
Making movie critique with Glenys Oyster.
Yeah,
every episode will be please. Just make a good movie. Hollywood, just make a good movie. Yeah. Stop making crappy movies. You know how to not do this.
We'll just be ranting.
Well, one thing you mentioned earlier was sort of like how I'm assuming sort of because you didn't look like you weren't maybe emaciated. And I'm wondering if that had impact on you being able to get treatment, because I know that so many of my clients and even friends of mine have said, like, people aren't taking my eating disorder seriously because I don't look the part. I'm not thin enough. One of my clients with binge eating disorder said, like, people keep saying, when are you going to lose weight? And, you know, she goes, I don't know how to respond to that. And so people are just not being taken seriously about, you know, because of body size too.
Yeah. No, because I was in a larger body as a child, for most of my childhood. I used food. Food was my love. I didn't have a very close relationship or support from family at all. We were I didn't grow up that way. So food became my friend, food became my family. And so I was in a larger body for most of my childhood. So when I first started dieting, when I was around 19 or so, I got all the compliments, just all the compliments in the world for my family. Like, no, I remember specifically, no one in my family had said a nice word to me, including my mother. Like, the first nice thing she said was, "Oh, you look great. Like, good job with, dropping this weight." And so that just kind of also became, was always in the back of my head. Like, oh, all I had to do to get love was shrink in size. Cool. I'm going to keep shrinking, So I think I was definitely sick then, not as sick as I was when I was binging and purging, but I was definitely not well. When I went to go get treatment, it was interesting because I wasn't, I was in the middle of my, dieting. And before I went to intensive outpatient, before I went to actual treatment, when I went to therapists, who weren't eating disorder therapists, like back in the day, it's gotten better now, but back in the day, like the site where I was looking up therapists, for whatever reason, like, people would just put that they treated eating disorders, even if they didn't. Like, it was just on the list. And I remember I found a therapist of color and I was like, oh, she seems cool. And one of her things on her list was that she treated eating disorders. And I remember going to her and being like, I want to, telling her what I had. And she was like, well, how much? She specifically was like, well, how much are you trying to lose? And I told her, and she's like, oh, that's not a lot. You can do that easily. I can. Yeah, it was. And she supposedly treated eating disorders. And so I saw her for a while and I was still sick. I was getting worse. And so I don't know if it's that I didn't have access to treatment. It's just, I think that, this was 2008 or 9, that I just think in general, medical professionals weren't as educated because her thing was, oh, that's all you're trying to do? Please. Well, I'll help you. Oh,
right. Yeah. There's a real problem, I think, still in the dietitian world where dietitians say, oh, I treat eating disorders. And in the same sort of breath on their website, they say, I do weight loss.
Yes.
And
I've come across so many.
And that was, and those were treated as, like separate problems somehow, not connected.
So weird.
Yeah. And it still happens. There are still dietitians who do that, and we're hoping to change their minds on that. But, somebody in our world, I think Deb Burgard always says, why are we prescribing in one set of people what we treat in another, right?
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
Like in larger body people, we prescribe eating disorder behaviors. And so in these professionals who do that, like they come to Erin and I and say, like, I don't trust anybody who does weight loss at this point because they're terrified, especially if they're in larger bodies. Like they're terrified of being prescribed weight loss. And then, and the thin people are being reinforced that they need to, like, oh God, don't get so big you have to lose weight. So it's a real, it sounds like you ran into that trust problem.
Oh, I absolutely did. It was confusing, and because these were medical professionals, and I was getting sicker. So and like you said, still, like even when I was doing a lot of outreach for the film and reaching out to people in the recovery community, I saw so many websites where they were supposedly, eating disorder dietitians and eating disorder therapists where, they were like, I do weight loss, I treat obesity, and are you obese? Like, I can help you. I'm like, oh my God, this is just offensive. So it was, I ran into a lot of that, and it kind of hurt my heart a little bit.
Yeah, it reinforces all your fears.
Yeah, it was a little triggering. I was like, okay, not going to talk to this person.
Yeah, it's a problem in our community, and hopefully we're making it a little bit better. Can you give us like what is the update with the film? I know that you had a campaign on Fundly or FundMe, right?
Yes.
Fundly. Okay.
Fundly. No, you had it right.
So where are you now in that process, and what's next?
So I mean, yeah, so we did raise some funds on Fundly. We didn't get as close to our goal as I wanted to. It's funny because I don't have a big social media following, like, platform. I'm literally just one person who I don't think I'll ever properly know how to social media. So yeah, I was doing a lot of individual outreach to get eyeballs on the campaign. So I think it didn't get as far and wide as I would have wanted it to, but we were able to raise some funds. But I'm so almost like stubborn and just like headstrong that no matter what we raise, like, I'm making this film.
Yeah.
So we're moving forward. Yeah, we're still taking donations on our official website, for those who weren't able to donate last month on the Fundly. But yeah, we're doing some just aggressive location scouting right now. My assistant director, he's amazing, he's a friend of mine. So we're yeah, we're really trying to, I guess, like, ask for favors, I guess, because we plan on shooting in December. And locations in LA, those are the hardest thing because, it's a film town. And so as soon as people hear, oh, you're shooting something, I want money, I want all the money, they think, you just have thousands of dollars to spend on location fees. But yeah, we have 3 specific locations we're looking for.
Yeah, please.
If I could mention, if anyone, okay,
Absolutely.
yeah, if I could put that out there. Yeah, we need a treatment house, a place that looks like a treatment house, a car rental agency, and also just a suburban house. So any kind of like place in the valley. Those are the places that we need for sure. I mean, we have other locations like outdoor food places and just kind of like the main character's apartments, just kind of look like, a crummy kind of little studio apartment. We kind of have that covered because most of the crew live in places like that. We can just use my place. So so we're just doing some location scouting and just telling people what we're making and asking, hey, are you able to let us shoot here for this amount of time for basically a favor or just like a couple, bucks, because we didn't raise thousands and thousands of dollars. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
And so let's say, someone wants to try and help out with some of these things. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Oh, shoot me an email. So the me little me film at gmail.com. That's the film's official email. And I check it every day. So if you have a location and you'd like to help us out, please email me. And also you can there's a contact form on our official website, melittlemefilm.com. I check that too. And also feeding the crew. Yeah, that's something I'm really I really want to make sure that we can do, because the crew like literally is working for pennies. Like they're just doing this because they love me at this point. Like there's like no money to really just like pay them. But I want to make sure, especially because of the context of the movie, that we have just like enough food and options. It's not just me cooking spaghetti every night for everybody.
And like all keto, right? Everyone's just keto.
How dare you?
Funny. No, that's funny. No, absolutely not. It's just whatever. If anyone has a restaurant or just cooks or has excess food or snacks, like I don't have like. I'm not embarrassed. If you just have a box of Cliff Bars you want to give us, I will come pick them up.
Okay.
Like and
you're in LA, right? I mean, this is all happening in LA.
I am. Yeah, this is all happening in and around LA and the Valley. So yeah, we'll drive. So anywhere in LA or the Valley, and even Long Beach or OC, like we're open to. We're driving all around location scouting right now, just seeing what we can work with.
So. Perfect world, right? I mean, like this movie gets made and, we get a bunch of eyeballs on it and people obviously rave about it. What's your vision for how this impacts the eating disorder community, especially for people of color?
I just want the shame to go away. I don't want it to be looked at as just like, oh, you got some little food problems and I'm just hoping that it'll be something that's taken seriously, because I think I mentioned, it's going to be a lot of the film. It is going to be through a lens of trauma and, being a person of color. I want the fact that these things are being, put on screen. I want other people of color to be like, oh, okay, there's someone else who's willing to talk about this. Maybe I can too. Like literally, that's all I want.
I think that would be awesome, right? If people see that story up there, they know that they're not alone, and something comes of that.
Yeah, I didn't have anything like that. Exactly. So I think I think that's all anyone wants, is to be represented and to have someone to like have their back, I guess. There's so much safety in numbers. Like even when I was making the crowdfunding video, before I was telling you guys how, I just gathered everyone I knew, of color, or just who didn't look like they had an eating disorder, the men especially, and I was and they were ecstatic to talk on the crowdfunding video, by the way, because like as men of color, they were like, we don't have any platform to talk about our eating disorder. Like, we'll do this. Like it, and that's something that that I learned too. I was like, oh, that's right. I've been ignoring myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just amazing to have that support, for me to be able to talk openly about my story as well. So
awesome.
That's what we want to do.
Yeah. I mean, stories are so important, right? Like we relate through stories. And that unless you start to see somebody who looks at least a little bit like yourself, it's really hard to relate.
Right.
So the typical eating disorder movie is the very thin white girl. And we both know that that's just not the reality. That's not the total reality here. And so, there might be people out there that have eating disorders and don't even sort of understand that that's what they have, because they haven't seen themselves represented as a person who could have an eating disorder, right? Like
exactly.
So
you nailed it. I've had people of color. I've had Black folks be like, eating disorders, our people don't get those. And I was just like, oh,
Yeah, I had that experience too, because I work at the VA, and I ran into a couple of my old patients, and they were they're very old and they're Black, and they were saying, well, what are you doing now? Because you're not working in our area. And I said, well, I'm working in eating disorders. And they're like, what's that? And, I tried, like all of a sudden I had to explain it to somebody who like had no concept of it. And they're like, well, we don't understand why people would starve themselves. Like, and they're like older guys, right? Like they're like, but we like big women. I remember them saying that to us, but we like bigger women. And I'm like,
oh yeah, I've had that too. Oh, are you kidding me? Like, but why?
Yeah, and that's a stereotype too, right? Like
it's completely.
So I was trying to, how do you explain patriarchy in one like short sentence that doesn't totally turn people off? And and I was just like, yeah, it happens. And I really found myself at a total loss of how to explain it to somebody who was just like, what's that? Yeah. And I think there's a lot of older people that are just like, that makes no sense. Yes. A lot of us grew up in poverty and we had no food, and why would you not want to eat? Yes. And so that makes them that distances them from it too. So
exactly. Oh my gosh, Glenys, you're speaking well, and not even that much older. Like my friend Amy, one of the girls who was speaking in my crowdfunding video, she was raised, and she's young, she's like 22. She was raised by Mexican parents, first generation, and she was saying how they still, like she had a really hard time because they grew up in poverty, or just really poor in Mexico, and they don't understand. Like they're like, well, why? We wanted more food, and you have all this food. They're like, something's wrong with you. It's not an eating disorder, but there's definitely something wrong with you. Like they couldn't.
Right. It's almost like there's something shameful wrong with you that you don't want to eat. Right. And they don't, it's just hard for people to understand. So hard. So I love that this movie is going to speak to sort of that anybody can have an eating disorder.
Right. It's like, it's about the food, but it's not about the food. It's just what we have access to. So.
Well, Elizabeth, I want to thank you so much for coming on, and we're going to do our best to spread the word. I was looking at a lot of the supporters on there, and I'm so pleased to say that there are many Hayes Health at Every Size providers that have already donated. So thank you, and a shout out to those folks who have already donated. I think it's an example of us putting our money where our mouth is. So I'm really thankful for those people who have already supported. You know who you are. And I'm going to encourage all of the other providers that identify as Haze focused to step up to the plate and make a donation to this movie and help Elizabeth out and get this movie made and in front of a lot of eyeballs.
Oh, I love you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it means a lot to me.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Elizabeth. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. You guys are amazing.